He was a billionaire CEO, feared in boardrooms, envied by rivals, and admired by the media. But inside he was the loneliest man alive. Every night he dined alone in silence till one evening, as he pushed away a plate of untouched food, two fragile voices whispered, "May we have your leftovers?" When he looked down at the twin little girls and saw their eyes, his entire world shattered. What he discovered that night would rip apart secrets, expose betrayals, and lead to a truth that no fortune could bury. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button right now, because these are the stories that shake your heart, twist your mind, and keep you watching until the very last breathless twist. Jonathan Hale was the kind of CEO the newspapers called ruthless, the board members called brilliant, and his rivals called untouchable. But in reality, his penthouse was as empty as his victories. At 50 years old, he had everything: private jets, an empire worth billions, an endless chain of awards. But every night, he returned to a table set for one. He had lost his wife years ago, and his only child. Well, that wound never healed. No one ever spoke of her. The world thought she had vanished, and Jonathan never explained. That evening, he sat in his favorite 5-star restaurant, his bodyguards at a distance, his meal barely touched. He stared into the wine glass, his mind replaying the emptiness of success. And then it happened. Two small voices broke his trance. "Excuse me, sir, may we have your leftovers?" Jonathan turned his head sharply and saw them: two twin girls, barely 9 years old, with tangled hair, torn dresses, and eyes that didn't belong on a street child's face. Their eyes were bright, intelligent, hauntingly familiar. His heart skipped a beat as he stared. Something inside him, something buried for years, trembled violently. He asked who they were, but before they could answer, the restaurant manager rushed in to throw them out. Jonathan stopped him with a glare that froze the room. For the first time in years, his voice cracked as he said, "They'll sit with me." The twins sat nervously, clutching the breadbasket as if it was treasure. Jonathan watched them eat, but he couldn't stop staring at their eyes, those deep, crystal blue eyes. The very same eyes his wife once had. The same eyes his daughter had, the daughter he thought was gone forever. Jonathan couldn't sleep that night. He had demanded answers, but the twins gave little. They were orphans, they said. Their mother had died a year ago, their father long gone. They lived on scraps, begging at restaurants. But Jonathan didn't believe it. Something about them gnawed at his mind. He hired investigators overnight, and within days, shocking truths began unraveling. Their mother had lived under an alias, hidden away in a rundown neighborhood. No records of the father existed. But when Jonathan finally saw the old photograph tucked inside the twins' ragged backpack, his hands shook uncontrollably. It was a picture of his late wife, with the twins standing beside her. His blood ran cold. Could it be? Had his wife hidden the truth from him? And why? Jonathan confronted his most trusted aide, his lifelong lawyer, demanding the sealed files of his family. That's when betrayal surfaced. The lawyer confessed that years ago, when Jonathan's empire was threatened by scandal, decisions had been made, cruel decisions. His wife had tried to protect their unborn children from the enemies circling Jonathan's business. She had disappeared with them, staging her death, hiding the girls for their safety. But something went wrong. She truly died, leaving the twins alone until fate dragged them back to him. Jonathan staggered, his entire empire spinning. The enemies he thought he had defeated years ago, had they stolen decades of his life, his wife, his children? Rage and regret consumed him. But as he stared at the twins, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, a chance at redemption. He swore he would protect them, love them, and make up for the stolen years. But the shadows of his past weren't finished. Within weeks, he began receiving threats. A mysterious figure sent him photographs of the twins with warnings. "They belong to us. Back off." Jonathan realized this was no coincidence. His enemies were back and they wanted his daughter's asterisk. The empire Jonathan had built suddenly meant nothing compared to the two fragile lives now in his arms. He pulled them into his penthouse, hired the best teachers, and tried to learn how to be a father again. But the girls weren't naive. They asked questions. Why had he never been there? Why had their mother lived in hiding, suffering? Jonathan had no easy answers. Tears were shed, anger rose, but slowly, a bond began to grow. For the first time, laughter echoed in his sterile home, yet the threats escalated. His enemies kidnapped one of the twins from school, leaving Jonathan on his knees. For the first time in his powerful life, the CEO who controlled industries felt powerless. He called in every favor, every shadow contact he had ever made. The final confrontation came in a decaying warehouse, where Jonathan faced the same men who had destroyed his family. He fought, bled, and bargained with everything he had, until at last he rescued both girls, but not without a cost. His empire's secrets spilled out, scandals broke, and Jonathan Hale's name was dragged through fire. Yet in the end, he didn't care. The girls clung to him, calling him father, and for the first time, the lonely CEO wasn't lonely anymore. He had lost an empire, but gained a family. And as he sat at dinner weeks later, his daughters laughing at the table, he remembered that haunting night in the restaurant, the night two hungry voices had asked for his leftovers and given him back his life.